on to concern or itty bitty concern number two, or speaking of, um, you know, guys playing in leagues and on teams that are bona fide, rock stars. We're talking about Gio Reyna, and everything pointed at the beginning of the season to him being a regular starter, and he was.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's not. And not only that, he's not even really getting like the chunk of minutes he would get when he came on as a sub early on, like 20 here, 30 there. Now it's like 10 here. Oh, 5 there. Maybe not 5, but you get the point. It's his time is shrinking. He's not a starter on this team anymore, and it looks like he'll have to win a starting role back. But let's face it, he had just like kind of horrendous few games in a row, but so did the whole team. So, where do you go with that on the concern level? I'm not quite sure yet either. It's just another one of those, I'm a little itty bitty concerned, but I'm not really into full blown worry at this point.
Well, similar to Chelsea, Dortmund, you had a coaching change. And I mean, while this coach definitely had more of a understanding of the player pool as a whole, I mean, you're right. Dortmund definitely had a dip in form, and Reyna part of that.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate that he got kind of sidelined for a game or two, and then all of a sudden, Dortmund found their form again.
Yeah,
all of a sudden they started hitting. Now, I think a lot of that stemmed on Haaland coming back. All of a sudden, he's back, and they're scoring goals left and right.
Yeah.
It whether or not you can claim that would have been. If Reyna was in the lineup, they would still be scoring those goals. I think so. If you have Haaland in there, I think it's pretty much a guarantee that you're going to get a goal or two in the game. So it's unfortunate that he sort of was on the sideline whenever the team started getting back into form.
Yeah, I mean, there's always
if it's not broken, don't fix it at this point. I'm sure is the coach's point.
And that could be the same case for Pulisic at Chelsea. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If Chelsea just go on a big winning streak, then Pulisic's probably not going to see a start unless there are injuries or, he needs to give someone a blow. But here with Reyna, well, what kind of blow I'm talking about.
That came out a little wrong there.
A rest.
That might be my side.
That's on you, Brett.
Whoops.
That's all you. But, the same thing for Reyna. The only thing I would say about Reyna's case is, when Haaland came back, he was still getting a lot of playing time. And they weren't scoring, and they weren't doing much, and they weren't kicking ass. And, eventually the manager's gone with a much more, an older lineup, generally. But
odd for a Dortmund lineup, but okay.
Yeah. Well, when I say older Dortmund, you got to keep that in
24, 25, right?
Yeah. But you got Royce getting a lot more time now. Yeah. I mean, the point is that Reyna is still a really young kid, and these kind of little moments are going to happen. And I do think, watching some of his games, and I don't know if his dad has talked to him about this, but when things don't go his way, it's a really, really negative demeanor. And I don't think that goes over real well. And I think he's going to learn how to fix that. He gets mopey. I don't know if you've seen it, but that's what I see sometimes. I think there's still a more maturity process that he needs to go through and, kind of learn to kind of battle through those times in games when, shit's not going your way. It happens. But overall, young kid, superstar talent, he'll be back. I'm not.
I will say the last 2 games where he saw meaningful time, it almost seemed like he rarely saw the ball. Like, I mean, it happened, but he didn't see it as consistently as he did. And I'm not saying that played a factor as far as how well he performed or not. I'm just saying that even in the last two games that he was there.
Yeah,
he wasn't an overall factor in the game itself because, again, the ball never really got played through him that much.
I don't know what's going on there because one thing that was really great about his game, especially when he first started playing for Dortmund, was showing for the ball. Like, I'm here, pass the ball to me. And I'm not seeing as much of that kind of aggression now, that sort of youthful exuberance. And maybe they said, no, you've got a role to play on the field, play the role, don't roam around and show for the ball.
That's what I'm kind of wondering too, because he kept at least the last game I saw him playing consistent time. I mean, he played out on the right, and he was like out on the right.
Yeah.
He never really got to cut in. He never really got the check for that ball appeared, unless the ball was on the right.
I mean,
so I don't know. I don't know if that played into a factor as far as the new coaching style. It's possible.
It is. It could be very possible because, playing out wide's not really, I mean, that's kind of where they started him, right? They played him out wide when he was last season when he was just a kid.
Out wide, but freedom to roam in.
Yes, but his prior manager liked the wings to cut in. Mm-hmm. And this manager doesn't seem to like that as much. Stay out wide and deliver across or whatever. And, I really think his position is at center attacking midfield or as a second striker. I think that's where he belongs. Now, he might not end up playing that position for the U.S. men's national team or Dortmund going forward for a while, but I think that's, where his strengths are.
Well, I mean, in fairness, when it comes to the U.S. national team, the left and the right outside strikers play more of they have more of the freedom to play out wide, but also to pinch into the center as well. So, I mean, I think that kind of plays into Reyna's strength as a whole. Now, mind you, I would prefer him to play in the center as well. I'm just saying that if he does get played out as a right wing striker or left wing striker, he still has that ability to pinch in, similar to what Pulisic does anyways.
Yeah, I mean, those two would be, I think, pretty darn good at those positions. And you have McKennie, Adams, and maybe Musa playing in the midfield. So
insert third central midfielder here.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's move forward and we'll do a little sort of general discussion about things that happened this weekend. I don't want to skip over the fact that today, Weston McKennie played nearly a full 90 and scored for Juventus. He did play
full 90, didn't he?
Did
he get subbed out at the end?
I think he got subbed out at the very, very, very end. But maybe he did play the full 90.
Was in the process of making dinner for the kids and everything at the time.
I wrote down 90, but sometimes that, yeah. So he must have played 90. And I did watch, and he played very well. I mean, he's going to be a core part of that team going forward for sure.
Well, it's fascinating being the Juve fan that I am, watching them every week and everything. What's fascinating is when he doesn't play, how different Juve plays. And it's not even that the fact that saying that McKennie is just that instrumental in that quality that he imposes himself, but it's the fact that he does the dirty work where he runs ragged and he forces the opposing players to make errant balls and make the mistakes.
Yeah, he did it today.
You see it a lot in the sense that he forces them to make a pass and all of a sudden the pass is right to a defender, and Juve moves on with possession. Or he makes a simple play where he gets the ball back and he makes a simple pass back and he's not, looking to make that, that killer through ball to the striker to get the assist or anything like that. But he is the one that's maintaining possession, and he's also forcing the opposing team to make mistakes.
And what he is really turning out to be is a fantastic poacher.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing how many corner kicks he ends up on the end of, whether it be off his head or, stuff bobbling around.
Quite frankly, just in the right position, but maybe the ball's just a little too high. But he's there, he's ready for it, and it looks like he's going to get to it. Or,
Well, today's goal is a great example. Mm-hmm. That was just junk, that fell in his lap, and he took a nice, first move and just nailed that thing right up into the corner of the net. I mean, he rocketed that thing. There was no saving that. But he was just at the right place at the right time. Like, he never gives up on a play, even if it looks broken. And as you said, he brings that high energy, high up the pitch, or even he'll run all the way back and do amazing things too. He's just a workhorse for that team. And the Italian, the press love him. And, so he'll be around. And I think, as long as he and Benacore are the core of that team in the midfield, I think they're going to have a real chance at catching Milan.
They're absolutely moving on. They're absolutely going to challenge it. Now, mind you, whether or not they get up there, who knows? They had a couple of games early on that they should have won. They ended up drawing. Very Chicago style, if you will.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, the only time that at this point with McKennie, he's almost a guaranteed starter unless Pirlo wants him to get a bit of rest for an upcoming game.
Yeah.
Whether it's an upcoming Champions League game or a big game against a derby game or anything like that. But he's absolutely a key player in that squad, and I'm not saying that he's a key player like he's like the top talent.
No.
He's not.
When Ronaldo's on your team, you're not going to be the top talent.
But he imposes himself in that lineup and against the opposing players, and that's all. That's what matters. And I think that's why Pirlo likes him a lot.
Pirlo loves him. Seems to love him a lot. We probably started the season thinking, oh, Reyna and Pulisic, they're going to really kick ass this season. But it ends up that McKennie's the one really kicking ass. And Tyler Adams as well, starting most of the games for Leipzig. So, it kind of like everyone was kind of worried, is Adams going to be healthy? Is he going to play? Is McKennie going to fit in at Juventus? And those guys are the guys that are lighting it up right now, are playing really well. Adams had an assist this weekend. Whereas, Pulisic and Reyna's near futures are kind of the ones up in questions.
In fairness to your point there, Pulisic and Reyna were starting every game at the beginning of the season. It wasn't up until just recently that they started not starting. Now, mind you, the question whether or not McKennie could, make it at Juve, I was always under the impression that since Pirlo went out and actively poached McKennie from Schalke, that he was more than interested in putting him in the starting lineup. Now, I didn't expect him to immediately jump into the starting lineup, but that's one thing that McKennie brought to the table, is that he just, after, he started a couple games because of a couple of injuries and COVID issues. But then after that, he had a bit of a spell where he didn't get playing time, and then he found his way back onto the pitch. And that's just the heart and drive that McKennie brought,
I just want to know where all the critics have gone on Facebook and Twitter who said, oh, McKennie, he'll never get to play at Juventus. He's not good enough. He'll never get to play. He's going to be a bench warmer. That's all you got to hear for I don't know how many days it was during the whole Juventus rumor and then confirmation of transfer. Geez, some people are just so freaking negative. I didn't think he was going to necessarily do what he did, but I thought he would get playing time and I thought he'd do well, and he has.
I think the one thing to note with McKennie, starting from the beginning of the season until now, and you could see it especially in this game where he constantly looked over his shoulder, finding out where his positioning was, finding out where he needed to be in comparison to where his supporting players were at.
Yeah.
Whereas McKennie and Old would always just I'm this position, I'm moving here, But now he's constantly looking around. He's maintaining his position. He's figuring out, Benacour is running up. I got to check back. And unless there's an opening, then I'm going in, type of thing. But his awareness of the game has improved drastically, I think, with Juve.
It's like the opposite of DeAndre Yedlin at Newcastle last year.
Yeah.
Where Yedlin didn't care where he was or where anyone else was. Oh boy. All right. That was an unfair.
Good job.
Yeah, it was. So
he's doing pretty well now.
Well, he's at Galatasaray. He started. We'll go through that. Let's go through that.